Hey guys, my name is Rachel and welcome back to another video. Some of you may know that we built the house that I'm currently in, but we also built our last house. So I think I have a pretty good idea of what is worth upgrading that you might not have considered because it's just not that obvious. So if that sounds interesting to you, keep on watching. The first thing that I think is totally worth upgrading is insulation. And by this, not only do I mean the type of insulation, but where that insulation is. So our builder includes spray foam insulation around the perimeter of the house, which is not the standard at all. So if your builder typically uses a different type of insulation, I think it's definitely worth upgrading to that spray foam insulation because then you'll save money on electricity bills later on. I live in Texas. It's 100 degrees almost every day here in the summer, and those electricity bills can get super expensive. My current house is quite a bit bigger than my old house, which did not have spray foam insulation, and our electricity bill has been about the same. So it really can save you a lot of money to do the spray foam insulation. How we ended up upgrading our insulation was we added a cheaper version of insulation for the interior walls. And what that does is soundproof your house a lot more. So in our house currently, when somebody uses the powder room to go to the bathroom, we have people over, we can't hear them at all. We can't hear the toilet flush at all. So it does a great job of soundproofing. And it wasn't very expensive to upgrade that because we used cheaper insulation because it was in the interior of the house. The second thing that I think is worth upgrading to is a tankless water heater. So we have one of these, and of course it saves a ton of space, which is always good, but also it has a built-in reciprocator. So we get hot water super quick. We don't have to let it run for a long time like we did in our old house. Another thing we added into our house, which not a lot of people do, is running Cat 6 lines to the living room, all the bedrooms, the office, and the back patio. So why we did this is so we could hardwire like the Apple TV or my husband's work computers, things like that, so that if the wireless signal was a little sketchy, then it wouldn't affect those things. So Cat 6 lines are really cheap, so you're pretty much just paying for the labor, and the cord itself is pretty cheap. So that's of course something that you would want to add while building. It would be a pain to do that afterwards. So if you think you might want that, definitely add that. Another thing to think about is how many lights are in each room. As far as light fixtures go, I don't think that's something that's worth spending a lot of money on because I personally don't think that you can really tell if a light fixture was thousands of dollars versus a couple of $100s, but it can make a huge impact to your house to have more recessed lighting. You can of course add recessed lighting later, but it's gonna be more expensive to add it when the ceiling's already up versus doing it before that happens. This is something that we wish we would have done in one of our bedrooms upstairs that we turned into our gym, because that room is pretty big and it only has 2 lights and it's really dark in the evening. So we're trying to think of ways to add more lighting in there without having to pay somebody to come and add recessed lighting. And we just wish we would have added recessed lighting, but we didn't think about it beforehand. Another thing to think about is gas lines. So if you think that you might want an outdoor kitchen at some point, then run a gas line to your back patio. We have one and we didn't even ask for it. Our builder just does it standard, but that's not a very common thing to do. Our old house did not have that. So if that's something that you think might be in your future, is adding an outdoor kitchen, then think about the lines that need to go in order to make that happen. That goes for outdoor outlets too. We have a pergola outside that we want to add some string lights to, but it's nowhere near an outlet. So we're gonna have to use solar lights, which is fine. But just think about things like that of what you might want to add outside later. My next suggestion only applies to certain areas of the country, but I live in an area where the water is just not very good. It's really hard water and it's not something that I would like to drink or even feed my dogs. So we put in a water softener and an RO system, so we wouldn't have to deal with the hard water situation. So the RO of course makes it better to drink. Usually people will have it as another faucet on their kitchen sink. Sometimes people will have an RO line to their fridge as well. Your fridge does have a filter in it if you get water out of the fridge. So it kind of just depends on how hard the water is, if you want to do that or not. But the water softener is going to affect the water in the whole entire house. So for your shower water, while you're washing your clothes in, it's going to make it so that you don't get those hard water deposits everywhere. My next suggestion also has to do with the shower, and it's adding a sprayer in your shower. So we use the handheld sprayer in the shower to wash the dogs, but also it makes it a lot easier to wash the shower itself. If you are scrubbing the shower and you want to rinse it, it's a lot easier to do that if you have a handheld sprayer. So obviously that's a lot easier to do while they're plumbing. So just do it then, and then you don't have to worry about it later on. So those were all of the things that I could think of that were not design related things that you might want to think about when building your house. If there's something that you think is worth upgrading that I didn't mention, then definitely leave it in the comments below. And go ahead and follow me on Instagram. I post a lot more home updates there. And don't forget to thumbs up this video and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.